Welcome, everybody, to our April energy analysis and discussion. I'm so happy you're here today. And as always, we want to discuss amongst us energetically sensitives, empaths, and healers, self-healers, what is coming forward in April as sort of main theme and how this permeates through these different layers of being: the physical, the emotional, the mental, social, spiritual, and energetic. So yeah, welcome to this in-depth discussion and view of how to deal with April energies. Just a quick side note here, the art of forecasting has a lot to do with recognizing the larger rhythms, the bigger picture, and obviously energies don't act according to calendar months. They come in waves. We are in a bigger rhythm right now that has to do with transformation, with new things coming in for all of us, for our entire planet, our entire collective. The old is more or less gone, and even though we're still kind of hoping that everything might just go back to normal, quote unquote, all right, it seems like all these events of the last year, not just in regards to the global pandemic, but also the economic impact, the political impact, and what this has done to people on a sociological and psychological level is starting to become more apparent now. So how are we personally dealing with this? How is this going for you? 21 energies all together, and kind of adjusting to a new reality, perhaps even a new paradigm of being. This is the level of inquiry, self-inquiry, that we need to do from here on, because with conscious manifestation that we discussed in detail last month, also comes the awareness that whatever I put out here into this world, okay, tends to come back to me, right? And this isn't about, oh, it's all my own fault if my life is hard. This isn't about that. There's no judgment in this. This is a simple realization that what I put out there is negativity, is life degrading. And once you go into this deeper inquiry of truth, you'll find that there is a lot of answers if you just allow yourself to really feel into these kind of questions. My view on life, how do I see life? How does that affect the way I experience life? And right here, we arrive in the energetic, in the etheric view of things. And the easiest way to imagine the interaction between the energetic and the 3D, without any kind of preoccupation, is to look at it in a way that we can maybe do with other unseen things in life here in 3D, weather patterns, gravity. Gravity is a good example. Nobody can see gravity, but everybody can experience gravity, right? And we kind of know what it does, okay? And therefore, we take it as true. The same applies to energies, okay? So if you imagine yourself, your soul self, okay, your energetic existence, as a force field, such as gravity, okay, that has a very unique pattern, a very unique coding, a very unique sort of composition of energies, then you can see 3D manifestation as maybe the physical particles that respond to that electric, magnetic field of your etheric. Yesterday in the energetic tune-up, I compared our 3D being, the 3D part of our existence, as like these little iron particles, okay, little iron shavings. I don't know if you've ever done this experiment in school, hold a magnet on iron shavings and literally see how it moves to show what electrons do, to show what magnetism is. And this is kind of like how our etheric self relates to our 3D self, okay? So whatever it is that we are allowing as an energy to take hold, or that we are holding on, or that we are putting out there, or that we are allowing in, or that we are believing in, that we are practicing, that we are fostering, that we are cultivating, then will have an effect on these iron shavings. It will arrange them differently. This is basically a very neutral way of looking at energies, that, just like how we understand the rest of the universe, okay, based on frequencies, based on electromagnetics interacting with another. And we know that, 97% of our perceived solidity, our 3D being, is actually empty space. Okay, then it's not really that hard to imagine that, that there is an electromagnetic field to us, which we can call the etheric, that has to do, or that is created in the first place, by existence itself. So we are existing, that we cannot argue with that. That is a given, it's an unknown, but it's a constant. Okay, and according to how I arrange my energies, my 3D manifestation, my 3D expression will then sort of solidify accordingly. Can you all follow me here? What I want to express with that is that there clearly is an interaction going on. There clearly is something like energies, even if we can't see them, but we can experience, we can witness the effects. And now comes the cool part. When you go a little deeper and you actually do a little more than just sort of going beyond your beliefs that have a lot to do with blind trust and not really questioning what these beliefs are. Okay, if you go even deeper than that, you'll find out that there are some very unique qualities to being human. Besides, being mortal, what else that we have? Having sort of mental constructs and preoccupations, beliefs that can limit us. Having sort of, emotional reactivity, having a nervous system, having a physical body that can feel heavy or painful at times. But what else do we have? Very unique qualities. We just experienced here the power of inquiry. And what is inquiry? Inquiry is a way to recognizing truth and having an insight. It's a form of freedom that we can think. Well, we're doing this here right now. We're executing this here right now. We can have a free thought. Yes, Denise. We can have a free thought, and this is our choice. We can choose how to see things. And we have the freedom to think anything we want. And obviously it can lead to insights, and it doesn't have to lead to the same insight in every person. In fact, it's already clear from a scientific standpoint that we do not come to the same insight. It's very unique to us. And we also have not just the freedom or the ability to do inquiry, to find truth, or to have insights, all these things that we call consciousness. We also have another power, and that is like an override. We can see things with our mind, we can sense things with our body, we can emote things, feel things through our emotions and express them through our emotions, through our actions, interactions, and so forth. And we have another power, and that is, that we can choose to let all that go and just love. Has it ever come to your awareness that those are powers inherent to the human condition? So we have this phenomenal power of insight. Yeah, we have this amazing ability to develop consciousness, but we also have the ego that binds us to this animalistic part of ourselves, that binds us to our biology, yeah, to our neurotransmitters, to our instincts, to our imprints, to our sociology, our conditioning, and so forth. So humans are very unique as a species, seen from a bigger perspective, because we have both. Yeah, we are basically, a new species, and that is not very far developed yet. So according to consciousness development, we're just now entering the stage where we can actually become aware of these powers, which what we weren't before as a collective, and becoming aware of the side effects of not being aware, such as destruction of the planet, destruction of the species, all these things that we are confronted with right now as untruths, as things that don't work. It won't work. I mean, I don't think a single conscious person left on this planet that believes that if we just keep going the way we're going, that it will be fine. Yes, we can use our spiritual beliefs and say, well, maybe one day a miracle happens, or a savior appears, or we're going to be relieved of all of this. But look, guys, April is also the month of Easter, and not just Easter, Ramadan, and other sort of sacred and holy days for other religions, partially because there's a connection to our climate zone here in the northern hemisphere, where these religions originated. It's springtime, it's moon and lunar and solar cycles and so forth bring in a specific type of energy every year right around this time. But it is also, if you go a little deeper here, the time of renewal. It's like a reset, astrologically seen. This is the time of the actual new year right now. Okay, so we'll have a separate workshop on the true meaning of Easter next week for that. So I don't want to go deeper into this, but I want you to understand that there are bigger things that are happening here to us than just COVID, or political uproar, or climate change and so forth. We're literally at the precipice of a whole new paradigm of understanding ourselves as energetic beings, and that there is a constant interaction between what we put out and what comes in, or what we allow in, and how it affects us. Yeah, we're beginning to realize this, and many of you are familiar with the research that Dr. David Hawkins has done, measuring this on a scale from 1 to 1,000. Where are we standing as a human race here on the development of consciousness? And we're just now standing on the arrival of truth. Yeah, where these things such as self-inquiry, realizing what free will actually means, realizing that we have a choice, realizing that we have freedom, realizing that we have power, to override with our empathy, with our love. We're just now realizing, we're waking up to this. This is a new evolutionary stage for us. And the way this comes to us, guys, and this is maybe something that can help you to recontextualize life, is through the confrontation with untruths, with all the things that don't work, with darkness. And what is that for? It's there for us to calibrate ourselves to finally do what we truly want, who we truly are, what our needs are, what our wants are, what our concerns are, to deal with them, to wake up and recognize that we are, in fact, our own authority. But we can't do this in a way that, in a selfish way, where we just exploit and harm others, because we're not just a sovereign, sole sovereign, and is standing in our own authority. We're also standing, in a bigger collective here, in conjunction with other people and nature and existence itself. So we're going to have to balance that out. We cannot do things that harm others. Yeah, that is an untruth, and that is something that we are realizing now on the big level. What does this mean for us individually? Well, tough love. We have to step up. And untruth is something that we should regard as something that is needed for us to learn, to grow. Why? Well, you can tell me why, because that's how we started our discussion, because we have an ego. And that's part of our human condition, and that ego will prevent us from doing that. How does it do that? With all kinds of excuses, lies, and justifications, resistance, inertia. Yeah, because that ego is tied to the realization that we are mortal and that it ends one day. Okay, so we as humans are not flawed. We as humans are ambiguous. And out of that tension between those two different parts in our body, so to speak, yeah, we are learning to calibrate ourselves. We are learning to, resurrect ourselves, reinvent ourselves. We are learning how to transform. We are learning that we have the power to transmute untruth into truths, pain into insight, pain into choice, freedom into love. All these words, I'm just throwing words at you right now, because it really isn't all just about this kumbaya, oh yes, as humans we can transmute pain into love. I don't know anybody, whose ego agrees with that, no matter how many times you repeat that phrase. This is an internalized process. We have to feel that, we have to go through it, and that's what karma is. The idea is not add to our karma, and to neutralize it, but not to make it go away. Karma is sort of the consciousness version, the higher version of imprinting, conditioning, and instincts. Yeah, it's a bit of a roadmap that we get when we incarnate, so that we're not just like running around and stealing other people's cookies, because that's what our ego suggests we do. Yeah, seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. Seeking pleasure and avoiding pain binds us to our physical 3D. It binds us to our physiological, biological restrictions. And therefore, if we focus on that part alone, on that part of ourselves, the ego and the biological part of us, the material part of us, well, then the world looks very frightening. And that is what we have already identified as the two darknesses in our lives, the two darknesses that we have to contend with in this dualistic experience of life. There is not one darkness, there's not one evil, adversary, that tries to make life hard to us. No, that's not a very sophisticated way of looking at life, guys. We don't have a storm because God is angry at us. Okay, that's from 2,000 years ago. Okay, so and we're not getting sick because Mary didn't pray enough. That's from like 1,000 years ago. Okay, we're experiencing these things because we have the capacity to actually discern now. And that is what we have to recognize now, that we're dealing with two forms of darknesses. The one, which is the one that binds us to our ego, to the material, the 3D part of ourselves, and with it, the animalistic part, the reactive part, the amygdala, the nervous system, the materialism that we develop, the narcissism and the mentalism, the coldness of existence, where there's an absence of love, there's an absence of freedom, there's an absence of truth, and an absence of light really. And this coldness is what brings this attitude forward that life is harsh and that we should get over with it. And I might as well just steal as many cookies as I can from others, you know, because then my life is a little better. And what many people haven't discovered yet, and this is why I, you know, make the subject of so many talks to bring this awareness of transfigured spiritualism and New Age, is that the fantastical, the mystical, and the blind faith, okay, the old version of that obviously was sort of, you know, fundamental religious and fanaticism, but that this is a darkness too. It tempts us into getting lost in the outside. It creates something like blind faith. It's not rational at all. There is no, you know, nothing in us that actually supports that. It's a form of spiritual laziness. Okay, so we are awakening to our spiritual needs and to our spiritual creativity, but we are also, we're not careful and don't cultivate this and develop this through, you know, consciousness development and working with our stuff. We're also in a very, very great danger of spiritual laziness. Yeah, to just say, oh, you know, it's just like God's ways are, you know, mysterious, and we, you know, it's beyond our mind, and, you know, aliens and all that. None of that can be proven, can be experienced. None of that can be internalized. So the two darknesses here on the consciousness level, what they represent in our lives are the temptation to get lost in ourself, yeah, in the narcissism, in the ego self, and the coldness that comes with that, and the materialistic reduction, yeah. And the other temptation is that we get tempted into losing ourselves outside of ourselves, that we leave our own etheric, we leave our own soul, you know, and just say, oh yeah, you know, it's all gonna be good, you know, if we hold hands and sing Kumbaya, everything's gonna be fine. Those are both darknesses, guys. And, you know, they both foster and cultivate specialness and ego, just in different ways. And it's something, you know, there's a message a lot of people don't want to hear. Yeah, so I'm completely aware of this, okay, by introducing you to those kind of views. I do understand that this creates a lot of resistance in you. But the consequentially, the question now needs to be, well, then what is, you know, the power of being human? How can I cultivate, how can I foster that? And here's where you're starting to get somewhere. This is where you realize that it's about balancing that. It's a continual balancing act between those two darknesses, between those two extremes, on all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, spiritually, and energetically. We have to find the middle ground. And where do we find that? Where do we find that, guys? Does anybody have the answer? Where can we find the middle ground? Where is it the easiest to balance all of that? Our ego self and our soul self.
Heart.
Our physical needs, yes, and our spiritual needs. That's, yeah, absolutely. But not the physical heart, obviously. More so what we call the heart. Yeah, the heart center. Because when we center in ourselves, when we go into this inner silence, when we go into the center of our centers, if you will, we will suddenly discover something. Yes, you called it true self. We'll discover an inner roadmap. So true self is nothing but a roadmap for us. It's kind of like the part of our soul that, communicates with us, sort of through hunches, through feelings, through senses, through our physical, through our emotional, through our mental, through all our emotions, all our thoughts, all our sensations, and all our insights. That's why, this negative view on life, where we kind of degrade and refuse existence, is extremely dangerous, and why this often leads to people seeing their emotions as something bad, or their bodies as something bad, or their minds, their thoughts as something bad. That is not very sophisticated, guys. They are all part of this roadmap and this experience. So we don't have to learn how to make them go away. Yeah, and this is indeed, what the ego self recommends. The ego self recommends, to just cut ourselves off from all of that. Cut ourselves off here, represented in this energetic way, from our lower chakras. Let's just not go into our emotions or into our body and any of this. Yeah, let's learn techniques how we can bypass our physical needs. Okay, who needs food? Who needs water? Who needs light? Who needs sex? Who needs physical comfort and security, right? And let's jump right into our just spiritual awareness, and let's just be a soul self. And how is that working for you? That's not the whole thing. The whole thing is to do both at the same time, okay, to balance this out. And this is here the center, the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, sort of being the organ, the energetic organ in us that regulates that. Yeah, and that comes in through the recognition of something like a true self, and the recognition of love and self-love and connection as the main currency for manifesting the power of being human. It's not a limitation, it's a possibility, it's an option. Yeah. So that's why you keep hearing things such as pain is inevitable, but suffering is an option. It's Buddhic. There's so many wisdom, so much wisdom that is in these phrases, but if don't internalize them fully, what they mean, they won't make sense to our ego, and our ego will go into resistance with them. So what is the bottom line here before we go into the forecast for April? The bottom line is that we need to recognize what our powers are and learn how to grow into them, and understand that being human is not a bad thing, it's not a punishment, it's not a flawed, imperfect thing, it's not like something that we need to undo. Being human, yes, is a gift. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to execute the highest power that was ever more or less given to any living being, at least here on this planet, namely consciousness. And with it, the ability to transmute anything, to recontextualize, to reframe, to give things a different meaning. We give life a meaning. We give ourselves a purpose. We choose that. And there's a few things that we need for that. We need truth. So we need to develop a real good, solid sense how to get to truth, okay? How to do this honest self-inquiry, truth inquiry, and how to discern truth as a sense, as a capability. We need to develop a good sense for freedom and boundaries. Okay, boundaries are there for us to calibrate our freedom. Okay, and then we need love, we need empathy for that, because without that, all of that is just mind porn. All of that are just mental constructs. We need them all. And now I'm asking you personally, how many of you have caught themselves in a situation in life or phase in life where you wished you weren't empathic, where you wished you hadn't any emotions, where you wished you couldn't feel? Who of you wished you didn't have consciousness? Who of you wished you wouldn't know all these things that you know now because, dang, you can't lie to yourself anymore? Was it nice to be innocent and naive? And so, yeah, you are criticizing the gifts that you were given in this way and you're missing the point. You're missing the power in that. Yeah, so I often simplify it a bit. It's about truth, it's about freedom, it's about love, as sort of the three main powers that we need to learn to harness and to grow into in the process of finally becoming human. And why is that such a big deal now in the times that we are in? Because it's at stake, because it is being attacked, because we have this huge battle going on there, which all of you are aware of, the dark forces against the light forces. It's just not how you think it is. Okay, and what does that do to us? It pulls us into our darkness, either losing ourselves in ourselves and the materialism of things, transhumanism and stuff, our effects of that, or, it tempts us into losing ourselves in the outside, codependency, unhealed healer, people pleasing, unchecked spirituality, fanaticism, idealism, fantasy. Okay, because that's what our ego says we should do. And being human means to stand right in the middle and to say, I recognize these darknesses and I recognize them in me. I realize this now and I'm okay with that because I know the power that I have. I know that I can transmute it. I know that I have these skills. I can discern truths. I know how to do that. I know how to internalize reality, and I even feel how that is all linked energetically. And that's the task from here on. That's the big transformation that is happening right now. And here with April, it's taking on form, it's manifesting, and we're right in the middle of it. It's an extremely exciting time from the perspective of our soul selves, really, because the world is now in that dualistic battle. Okay, it's about us not being the good guys. Okay, that's spiritual laziness to look at this battle of dark and light as good guys and bad guys. That's still part of our dualism. No, this is about us becoming human and recognizing what this I am awareness, this awareness that existence permeates through us, and how powerful that really is. And with it also our energetic understanding and so forth, and to begin to execute that power. And that's what this battle is all about. Because they're a lot harder to control humans if they actually wake up to their own powers. Okay, so it's the remnants of greed, the remnants of untruth, the remnants of narcissism and so forth that we're going through now. We're being confronted with it. So our job is to grow into our humanness and transmute our old judgment that being human is flawed and intrinsically bad. So how's this going to play out in April energetically? We will feel a strong influx here in this area of realizing these kind of things. So most of our talk and discussion here was about this realizing the etheric nature of our reality and how it interacts with 3D. That's our first and our seventh chakra. That has to do with harmonizing, our these two darknesses in us, really, if you want, to not get lost in the outside world, to stay grounded, but also not get lost in our fear, in our survival fears. Okay, that's always when first and seventh chakra come in that way. It always really activates these ego aspects in our physical existence. Now, the second chakra is our emotional processing. So this is where, a lot of April energies will really go out of bounds. Okay, so we'll see a lot more of this erraticness and, yes, the unrest and shootings and stuff like that. Guys, sorry, this is part of this battle right now. Okay, people can't handle it. Okay, so whatever the number is right now, 30% of the population, the world's population, goes into anxiety and depression. Another 30% goes into, lashing out, domestic violence, erratic displays of inability to regulate themselves, and then maybe the rest goes into a higher spiritual understanding. Okay, so this is the reality right now. Yeah, we're standing right in between this. So April is very ambiguous in this way. We have to deal with dualities full on. There's a beautiful impulse here for our deeper understanding, for our visionary abilities. April comes with a lot of innovation power and a lot of sort of seeing new options. It's very creative in this way, also in regards to technical innovations, but also in regards to the arts and movies and so forth. I'm expecting cool movies come out in April just due to the energetic constellation here, where our heart and our mind, where they begin to experience this harmonization. So we call this the heart-mind balance, yeah? But the biggest challenge, I guess, for most of us is that many of us will recognize the limitations in our own expression, in our own self-expression. Am I really expressing what I want, what I need, what I'm concerned of? No, I'm not. So how can I deal with this? I need to go into self-correction. And self-correction always leads to recognizing that we need to work on our communication, that we need to express ourselves in different ways. And in conjunction with this overall transformation that we're going through, it's a wonderful month to learn how to speak from truth, to stand in truth, and to allow this inner guidance, this heart mind, where we're neither emotional or cold, where we're allowing all our thoughts and all our emotions and all our sensations and even our spiritual understanding to become one and talk in a way that is conscious. Yeah, and precision has a lot to do with this. So self-correction is a good thing, guys. Yeah, but on a physical level, we might experience this as a bit discomforting. I'll get to that here in a minute. So the biggest task for April is, because we're standing in this duality, is to really recognize that it's our task, our responsibility, and our authority as well to improve our energy management. Yeah, we really have to work with our life force more efficiently, but not in this sort of cold and transhumanist way of like performing better and functioning better. We're not machines. No, in recognizing what the things are that actually help us to expand, that help us to feel more energetic on a physical level, but also in an emotional way, in the way that we feel more open to connect with others and allow our vulnerability and so forth. I see that as something expansive. For many of us, it also has to do with allowing ourselves to actually experience the joys of life and to tune into our playfulness and creativity and really recognize all these cool parts about being human, even in their 3D expression. So the big sort of overall energetic alignment, and this is something that has been going on for many years already. This is really sort of the bigger consciousness development for us as humans, is to integrate and rebalance our recalibrate the feminine approach, feminine energies more into our worldview, This is happening right now at an extremely fast pace. You can see this everywhere in politics, social justice, and so forth. Is beginning to integrate a more, a softer approach, a bit more empathetic approach, being human. You'll hear this a lot. This is another of these inoculation words, guys. Dehumanizing, okay? But you got to be careful, because propaganda uses those words to mislead you, okay? But this is all about becoming more human in a good way. And what this requires us to do is to, integrate feminine energies that for the last 2,000 years or longer have been degraded, okay? I don't want to go on about emancipation, patriarchal system, and so forth. It's obvious, that this is needed for us as a species to become more evolved, okay? We have to recognize that this is a mutual energy change, and we have to understand that the success and even, the success of our species and the evolution of our consciousness cannot happen with a masculine approach that is rather cold, actually, in that way that it favors materialism and goal-oriented and sort of dog eats dog type of approaches. So all this is discussed in many other workshops. So these are like more or less sort of what we can expect here energetically coming towards us. The list of antidotes, if you don't know what this refers to, there's a energy forecast that I did for 21 that announces that we will more or less every month here come up with an antidote that helps us to inoculate ourselves against these looming things, such as that come with the confrontation with untruths, like mind control, propaganda, climate change, transhumanism, and so forth. So as sovereign soul cells, we have to recognize that we carry the skills and the power in us, okay, to counteract that, which is then basically our purpose, our transmutation task. And April comes in with aspects of embodiment. It has a lot to do with realizing, what the deeper meaning is. This sort of thinking things all the way to the end and becoming aware of our choices and also the consequences. It makes us grow up, really, as humans, because there is no such thing as I can do things just for myself and it won't affect anybody else. No matter how much our ego likes to see the world as hostile, this is not how we're designed, okay? We're designed to interact, we're designed to live in a constant give and receive and mutual energy exchange, even though it's mostly unseen to us. So therefore, April will come in with a lot of inventory that we need to take, of what is. And for many of us, if we haven't really worked through stuff, it will feel like a very, very deep shadow clearing, In fact, April is a very, very good month for deep clearing in the physical as well as the emotional, spring cleaning, okay, for your house, spring cleaning for your body, for your neurotransmitters and your metabolism, and for your emotions, as well as your beliefs and mental constructs. So it won't really be that nice. It will feel quite discomforting, especially starting from the middle of the month. Okay, so the first week or two, the first 10 days of April, bring in a beautiful opportunity for us to internalize, to go more into our heart, to harmonize. It will show us, some of our addictions and some of our, ego coping things that we can now recognize are a part of our choice. Okay, and then we just simply have to choose differently. And that if we keep doing what we're doing, we're just going to get the same results. Karma isn't mystical, guys. Karma is a very methodical display of give and take of what we put out there. And so that will all come to our awareness and will feel a bit discomforting, like Cheryl described this in the beginning. Yeah, so it's a lot about clearing and correcting of delusions. And again, here, let me pick up on the word correction, because people usually cringe with the word correction. Understand that one of the most powerful aspects of the feminine approach is self-correction. You see this manifested in Gaia energies and nature energies. The most powerful tool that nature uses is self-correction. It's associated with divine feminine energies. So understand that self-correction, on whichever levels you are experiencing the need for that, is what gets you forward, is what needs to be done. So you have to, like, literally work with your shit and recognize that if you don't do anything about it, it's not going to change. Yeah. So remember this when you go through some of the low points here, especially towards the second half, and then especially towards the end of the month of April. Yeah, so this is about learning how to actively realign and reprogram ourselves, and recognize that because we're 3D, and we have a physiology, we have a biological body, that this doesn't go overnight. This isn't an event. This takes time. We have to practice things. We have to foster and cultivate them. That's, where these words come from. We have to do it over and over again until it sits, and until we, really begin to connect with our deeper soul aspects and reunite with them. And then still, the glue that puts all these dualistic fragments back together has to dry for a while. Okay, so you have to understand that there's a bit of a limitation, and learn to accept that. Okay, this will be particularly significant for those of you who are dealing with addictive structures, not just substance addictions or clearly destructive behavior programs, but also with the ego addictions that we have. Yeah, the addiction for the juice of being special, the juice in other people's dramas, the juice. And when I say juice, I mean, this sort of this payoff, this supply that we get through all our ego notions. And remember that our ego gets triggered and tempted by two darknesses. Yeah, the darkness of getting lost in ourselves, and the darkness of getting lost in others or in the world. So what we'll find out is that, becoming human and really becoming aware of the powers that are that come into expression when we finally choose to be a true human, that all that links back to our shadow traits. It links back to our ability to work with these unloved aspects of ourselves and reframe them. Yeah, so there's a reason why we always say there's a treasure underneath your shadow. So don't be afraid of your shadow. And actually, this is a big one here, working through your fears in April, because outer collective events will trigger your core fears. Okay, and this plays directly into our biology here, because many of us will have these sort of trauma responses that come, from our nervous system. So you're going to have to really work with this. And oftentimes we can't do this on our own, guys. I'll be honest with you. That's why we come together here and do this as groups. In our daily meditations, the daily Sacred Self on Skype, or here in the Sacred Self Healing group, where we actively do this with working through this, a workbook, exercises, and energy alignments. And by the way, there's a new energy alignment for April that I will make available for everybody. Actually, I already did. I'll put this in the recording email for this forecast discussion. Something that you can use on a daily level to align yourself to these tasks. Yeah, the purpose of being in April, or dealing, with April energies. So all of that, all just so that we can become more true with ourselves, become more clear about our true intentions and what motivates us. And shadow means to weed out, these ego motivations or false you know, false ideals and externalizations. Yeah, big part of this, and you know, this is where I see my role as a teacher here for you, in continuing offering this kind of education, is to become aware of our spiritual reality. Okay, so this energy awareness, this etheric reality awareness, that's something I'm big in. If you study the lessons of the Sacred Self-Healing course carefully, you'll see how much there's already in that course, but to finally experience that really requires you to internalize this. And one of the ways I do this is through these transmissions that I offer on an ongoing level, you know, to really experience your own etheric energy and learn to direct it and to harness it. Yeah, become aware of one's power, and also the individuality in that, and the beauty in some of that. You guys get all so wrapped up in judging yourself, you know, that you miss the forest by the trees a lot of times. Yeah, and something that resonates really well, but often isn't clear what it actually means, is taking karma into your own hands. You have the ability to do this. You might as well do it and stop negating life, stop going against life and seeing it as a punishment. Yeah, karma isn't there to teach you a lesson, and if you're good enough, you might be resolved from having come back. Guys, that's spiritual laziness, to see it that way. Physical integration, biggest task for April. We have to become a little more conscientious about what all this transformation does to our bodies. We have to help our bodies. We have to clear and cleanse our bodies. You hear me and other people say this over and over again, but please do not underestimate that. In April, it's all about our life force. It's all about our microbiology, our metabolic functions, our energy handling. It's all about that. So we have to pay extra attention to nutrition, to our lifestyle habits, and metabolic stuff. It's a really, really good month to do an extensive blood test. I'll make a recommendation for you here in the comments for this video. There is a company out there that allows you to do most of these tests with yourself from your own home and analyze it for yourself. The whole point is to grow into your health authority, okay, into your life authority, like for you to take charge of that. And there's simple things that don't cost much, like urine strips. You know, we can measure your pH level, it costs nothing, just to get some physical feedback. Then there are more fancy things such as biofeedback. I'm a big fan of the Aura rings, spelled O-U-R-A, to give yourself this continual feedback of your vitals and how that affects your energy and so forth. So I'm not affiliated with any of these, you know, just letting you know that there's a lot of tools out there that can help us to do this self-authority and self-health and self-healing by ourselves. April, guys, is not the time for justifying and continue lying to ourselves, to just get stuck in our comfort zone. I tell you why, it's gonna hurt you like crazy. It's gonna be really painful. That's why I'm saying, you know, tough love in the write-up for April. It's, you got to get up your couch, like Cheryl said in the beginning. It's also not the time for dithering, going back and forth and getting stuck in your cognitive dissonances. Remember, we're staying right in the middle of our own dualities. This catch-22, this mental back and forth, this mind porn that we often do, serves no purpose. It just creates pain. You have to learn how to bypass that. Energy work is a really good way of doing that. But obviously, mindfulness in and of itself, going into the inner silence and beginning to listen to your true self-guidance, you know, is always the best way, because that's also the best way for you to experience yourself as an authentic soul, self-sovereign. That's the best way to experience your own I am existence. Yeah, it's not the time for externalizing responsibility or karma or choice. So yeah, externalizing means, you know, blaming, looking at others, pointing fingers, making others responsible, also waiting. I cannot do this because I don't have this. This is going to be very painful this month. And really painful is backpedaling and relapsing. Okay, so many of you have already discovered some of these you know, patterns that are not good for you, started working on them, started overcoming them. You've left your narcissist, you stopped drinking alcohol, or you know, you are consciously working with your ego specialness. Just be aware that April is a month where you can easily relapse because of this ambiguity, this overall sort of catch-22 type of energy that April has. And therefore, you know, and here big shout out to all of you who've gone through big trauma, who have a high level of trauma load. It's not the time for freezing. I understand that freezing was something that has helped you to get through some of these traumatic experiences, but you are wiser now, you are stronger now. Freezing is no longer something that can get you further. It will only make you repeat. Okay, so this is a big part of energy coaching this month. Will be about how to reprogram our nervous system to not get caught in trauma responses. So anybody who's already done a little bit of trauma healing, you know, energy work is really well suited for that, and especially how to integrate all this into the physical, how to anchor this, how to change our metabolism, how to increase our energy handling on a physical level. So many of you know this. I used to be a nutritional consultant many years ago, decades ago, and this is coming beautifully together with energy coaching because I can be very practical there. So don't shy away of asking questions in regards to your diet, in regards to some of the physical stuff. Obviously, you know, it cannot replace a professional medical advice, but the more holistic view and the energetic view can deliver very important cues for you as to you know, like the roadmap, a self-healing roadmap, and how to grow into your self-healing authority. Challenges, I've interpreted them for you here, so I'm not going to go through them again. And the opportunities, okay, and the self-healing tasks, okay, those are all things that indicate that April is going to be a challenging month for the collective, especially in regards to money and values and stock market. Guys, I've already announced this in the forecast for 21. So right around the middle of the month, guys, around a little bit after the new moon, we're going to look at some issues here. Some big collective shadow things are coming forward, revelations, and, you know, seeing the truth of certain things, but also the consequences, namely, you know, things that have to do with our money markets, how money functions and how it doesn't function. And this can lead to a big a panic sell-off. Yeah, so be careful here if this is where you get your security from, the stock market. That will not be a pleasurable experience. Maybe distribute your investments a bit more so that you can hedge this correction better. I'm seeing like something like a 30% correction here. If you invested in cryptos, which is, you know, one of the ways that many of us have suggested to hedge some of the looming corrections in the money market and financial markets altogether, be okay with volatility, or, you know, see the bigger picture here, you know, that by the end of the year, this is going to look differently. But be aware that this is going to be a very up and downy month, yeah, for all of us. And in regards to politics, guys, since American politics are still kind of dominating for many aspects in world politics, especially, you know, due to its power in regards to the financial system. A big uproar here towards the 23rd, 24th. Lots of stuff coming forward, and not conspiracy theories, but really sort of this ambiguity or this duality that I keep on mentioning will come into full expression around this time in regards to wanting to feel secure, wanting to be conservative on one side, but also needing to accept progress and wanting things to innovate and to progress. And there's going to be some issues with the American president around this time. Okay. And globally, we will continue to see unrest here, especially towards the end of the month. This will be more of a global effect, because when there is a correction as big as that, 30%, that's just my personal estimate here, there's going to be a full-on economic impact, and that will affect everything, global supply chains. And, even our, sort of next day delivery, Amazon luxuries. Okay. There are already indicators. I don't know if you've been following the news of things happening in the Suez Canal right now. Keep an eye on these things, because they will ultimately lead to progress, and also humanity realizing that they have to change things. So globalization, how we did this in the last 50 years, isn't the way. It's very destructive. So we have to find new ways of doing things. All that is laid out in the forecast for 21, 22, 23 that I've done. And we have to align ourselves. We have to calibrate ourselves now in all this, and make sure that we don't become too reactive. Like, unfortunately, 30% of the population, 1/3 of the population will go into this. And the Earth is going to react to this as well. These unusual weather patterns will continue. We'll discover more and more evidence that there's actually cooling happening on this planet. So global warming isn't as we thought it was. Climate change, yes, but not that simple. More complex, has to do with the magnetic field. And so we'll see we'll see evidence now here in April that some areas of our planet are actually cooling down and others are warming up. And that will also then have a big effect here towards the summer months, big sort of rethinking of everything, okay? Relocation and so forth in progress. We have to rethink our energy handling altogether and move towards renewable energies, and not because of the carbon stuff, and not because of this or that, but simply because we will need to do this. It will become aware to us that this will be a need. And that is it. So guys, thank you so much for coming. Take this to heart, make everything a conscious choice, utilize the tools that you as Sacred Self-Healing members can enjoy. There's this energy alignment for April called Embodiment. It's already available on SoundCloud. Thank you so much for sharing and for participating here. And yeah, help your friends and your fellow humans, okay, to dive deeper, to do this, to maybe do this with you. Suggest I come to these daily Sacred Self online meditations, where there's always like a discussion about current energies, a recontextualization, and then the meditation itself, where we can internalize and experience this for ourselves. And that's free, and someone who wants to go deeper, should really study this, should really make an effort and learn about their inner and outer interaction here. Obviously, in self-promo, utilizing the Sacred Self-Healing Experience, the 24 steps. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube and, share and all that. I'm not a big social media protagonist, but I do recognize the need to share. I do recognize the need to connect with others on this level. And so it's all up to you guys, to invite people to actually operate on that level. on that deeper level with you. Thank you so much.